Oh, go Astros.
Who's your MLB team?
I take all comers. I don't have one particular team. I'm excited about the series. I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So with this film, this was one film that I had asked specifically to be able to cover. Me being a history buff, I was really excited to talk about this project.
Great.
And so what really surprised me with this story was how Edison was so, I guess, ruthless, I guess you could say in a way. What surprised y'all with each of y'all's characters?
I think that, to pick up on your point about Edison quickly, he was a master at branding. So what you get through the history books and the list of his achievements is a sort of, icon of invention, often said to be America's greatest inventor. And yet there was an obsession in this period of his life which was really dark and driven by all sorts of forces and fear, really. It sort of appealed to me to show the human failing in him. Not to belittle his achievements, but to show how, great things can go wrong when fear is involved and overprotective competition and building fences and not wanting to share the proceeds, And it's, if anything, I guess, he's the sort of at the moral other end of the spectrum to Westinghouse.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Was Westinghouse a man of principle like that much in her life?
Well, I can't say with absolute certainty much about him, but I think that's partially because that's the way he wanted it. One of the reasons I don't think you know as much about him is because he didn't want people to know about him.
He burned all his papers, didn't he?
Yeah. It was very hard to research. Yeah, and it wasn't just that a lot of people are curious about him, but it was him actively saying, "I do not want to be a legend. I don't want that."
But Edison wanted the legacy. Didn't he?
I guess so. Although it is interesting, I was on the subway the other day and I just looked up and there was Westinghouse right in front of me. Like, names everywhere, but I don't know much about them. But
there were lots of household appliances as well. They just still sell Westinghouse ranges and toasters.
But it's interesting where he started was with the air brake, which was literally trying to save hundreds of thousands of lives on the rail industry back in the day. Yeah.
Tubbins, was there any correspondence that your character had with Thomas Edison that you got to read as part of your research?
No, there's very little about her in terms of research. So we actually, I had the script and I had what we knew about Edison, and then the rest of it was kind of up to us. And I think it was really important to Alfonso that she was a support to him, and I think that reading the script, I suppose what surprised me about was her kind of endless patience. I think being with someone who has that level of genius is very complicated, and is a way of life that you choose or you don't, and you pay for that in the end because they're not around, and yes, you get money and fame and you get to be a part of this sort of shared legacy, but at the same time it was very difficult for her. So I think she was a very strong woman, and especially for that time they met when she worked for him. That's one of the few things that we know about her, when she was 16. And so she was someone who worked from quite young, which was, I suppose, quite forward-thinking at that time. So I think it takes a very strong woman to be behind a man like that.
Yeah, I think it took a special type of love to be able to back such a brilliant mind as well. Alfonso, it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
And so you have a Texas background, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Born and raised on the Mexican border, Laredo and Nuevo Laredo on the Mexican side. And it was a very unique upbringing because you're surrounded by four cultures, and the Texan, the Tex-Mex, the Mexican, Mexican-American. It's just your identity crisis becomes your identity,
So this film, I was really excited to be able to sit down and watch this morning. I've always found this subject very fascinating. I've known a little bit about Edison. Westinghouse I probably knew the least about, and then I'm fascinated with Tesla. What is it that surprised you most creating this story?
I think the humanity in all the men, the men behind the reason why we were able to see me now, and those private moments that are either based in research or created by the wonderful work of Michael Minnick's screenplay to get closer to the truth and what it might have felt like in that moment. I think you start seeing pieces of them in you, and pieces in them of the person you would like to be.
What was the biggest challenge making this film, and then how'd you overcome it?
Biggest challenge was probably recreating 1880s, 90s New Jersey, Chicago, New York in the UK. Was with some limited resources. It was just, it became a great arts and crafts kind of art project. It surrounded, and I surrounded myself with incredible artists that were able to really think out of the box to realize these ideas.
And Martin Scorsese was one of those artists, if I'm not mistaken, right? What was it like working with him?
He was an executive producer on the film, and so of course when you get feedback from a master like him, the film will only get better.
Did Thomas Edison get too much credit for what he's accomplished, or do you think Westinghouse didn't get enough credit?
I think, I think we all, many people, as did I, go into the War of the Currents thinking we know who won because we know who we remember, and we're not. Many of us will be mistaken, but I think the idea of credit is something that was Edison's obsession, and but while for Westinghouse it was good enough to leave the world a better place. So I think hopefully this film maybe gives credit to some of the men that have been forgotten along the way.
Yeah, because Westinghouse seemed more like a man more of principle, and I didn't realize all the dirty tricks, like a dirty tricks campaign that Edison had done to pretty much slander Westinghouse's name.
Yeah.
So that really surprised me.
Yeah, just using the media, using lies in the media over and over again until they become true to bring down your rival. It's pretty relevant today.
And then I'd like to talk about the director's cut real quick. What were some of the biggest changes that you saw that you wanted to make?
I think we rescored the film. We tightened the film so it's about 10 minutes shorter, and then we added 5 new scenes that mainly enhanced the relationship between Mary and Edison and Tesla as well, and so together I think the whole experience is significantly different and closer to what I had in mind.
Yeah, I think that dynamic with his wife really made him more personable.
Yeah,
I would say so.